of my hands. You look up.
You look up. Sorry. And the sky is crowded. Tiny screens drowning out the span. I was happy with that one.
Yeah,
Very
you
happy
should
with that
be.
one. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. And okay, hi everybody, welcome to the show. They're joining us. Hopefully, let's bring these folks up. I'm always very iffy about the whole like, can they see us? Is it going out? Is it working? If I drop out at any point, Johnny Million, you will have to pick up the slack and chatter because the fact that we're using Restream Studio means that I will disappear if my internet is crappy, but the show will go on.
Oh, the show go on. That's when I'll pick up my cat and just be like, look at my cat.
I got a cat. Fart noises. I'm good. So, hi there, Smarty Pants. What's happening? Hello. Yeah, exactly. Hit those emojis, will you? Please. Thank you very much. And let's see. We should do circles, something like that. Boink. 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 Just messing with everything right now. This is probably a terrible idea. Like, we need trouble like this. This is much better. Okay. Header chat room. Okay, there we go. And then let's get this out of there. And then I can actually see. Yeah, fire up some hit some emojis. There you go. Like those. Excellent. Please feel free to, let me see if I can get one of these to say on there. Thrall me with your acumen. The conspiracy nuts are out in force with the recent NASA mission. Oh yeah, I love that. It's one of my favorite things. It's so good. It is so choice.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that was a refresh on the idiocy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of fine with it because they are miserable right now.
Yeah.
So, what's up with Swalwell? Yeah, that's a terrible story. Okay, so I don't know if you know about Swalwell, but apparently he's facing sexual assault allegations. Yeah, not good.
That looks bad.
And yeah, he's one of those guys where I kind of liked him. I don't know what the deal is, right? And then I noticed he went silent, even though he was going to run for governor for a while. Like you hadn't heard from him in a long time. He was mouthy in Congress. He was mouthy in these hearings, and then that just fell off a cliff. And I didn't know if it was him just prepping for that. Chicago, can you hear us? By the way, are we? Hold on. Oops. Why are they not there? Okay. Okay, they're in here. Chicago, hello.
Can you hear anything from us?
Yeah, now we hear you. Now we hear you.
We're on the air now. I've been trying to tell you guys.
Well, thank you. Now it comes through. I'm good. And maybe it was a delay or a hash out, but welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks' radio program, Megaworldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. Here we are, and I'm in Oceanside, so please forgive with the internet today. It's going to be sporadic. It's going to be choppy, just like the waves. Just surf it like everybody who's outside the window right now in this place. They're surfers all the time. They're always there. I think it's the same three guys, 24/7. I think we're in a simulation. I'm fairly certain, Johnny Million. It concerns me. So, yeah, we have to be. So, a couple things right out of the gate. Let's start with the negotiations, the Iran negotiations that are allegedly going on right now. I think we all feel much better that the Riz has arrived, baby. JD Vance is in town. How in the world can you not think this is going to be magic? Man, right?
I can just, everything's drying up over there, even drier than it was.
If JD Vance negotiated your prenup, your mate would be able to get everything you have and your kids from your last marriage at the end of it.
The kids you haven't had yet.
Right, exactly. And a couple of things. One of the big standout things, and this has been bothering me, as you might imagine. I have little things that stick in my craw, and they're largely stuff ignored by the lamestream media. It's that one of the big demands, Johnny Million, if I may call you that, good sir, is that that Iran one of its no-go zones where it says this or nothing is the unfreezing of Iranian assets that have been held in place by sanctions. Now,
That's so weird.
do you remember the story about Obama gave them $1.8 billion in cash in giant airplanes, and there's no cash in any of the banks in the DC area,
Yeah, and they
and blah blah.
kept like finding these pictures of briefcases on the tarmac that they said were proof.
Right. And never mind that was cash that was actually held in Middle Eastern banks that had been sitting there, and that the U.S. was, because they were illegal sanctions at the time, they had not been approved. We were paying interest on them, so we were very
Right.
close to paying more money to them in interest for that money than that money was worth. And so, it's like you get a car loan with 100% interest. It was that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
hilarious. So in the process of BSing about that, still Trump even mentioned it this week. 1.8, Obama gave them cash and there was no cash in the area, blah blah blah. And then the other one was Biden gave them $6 billion, right, for hostages, and Trump got hostages without giving them a dime. That was the whole thing, right? From somewhere else. But anyways, so one of the first things as like an act of good faith that the Iranians have asked for in the negotiations as a precursor to all 100 to 119 billion dollars in frozen assets from oil sales that are all over the world in banks. Basically, countries got 119 billion dollars worth of free oil from them during the last Trump administration. And Biden, I guess, because the sanctions stayed on. Trump took the sanctions off for 2 years, and then when he got caught, when right-wing members of Congress were getting blowback because people had figured it out, they started getting calls, and he started getting calls. So he acted like, I'm going to be tough on them, and he redid the sanctions that he took off to try and get gas prices down. So, all right. So what do you think the first thing that Iran asked for when in terms of sanctions relief and the release of funds was? Well,
Probably,
it just
yeah, probably what they've been promised.
right. Well, it was $6 billion, specifically $6 billion held in a bank in Qatar. Now, why Qatar? Qatar doesn't buy oil from Iran. They sell oil and gas. Why Qatar? Well, because that's the South Korean money that Biden was going to give them for the hostages. Then we got our hostages, and Biden went psych, and the money stayed in a bank in Qatar, and it's been sitting there ever since. Biden tricked effectively the Iranians, and said, we're not going to give you this $6 billion. We're going to put it in a bank in Qatar. You can use it for humanitarian stuff, food and medical supplies specifically. And the United States has to approve every purchase. Now, I know Republicans will say that, well, if they don't have to spend their money on medicine, they can spend it on bombs, and that's always been the trade-off. So that's the excuse for starving people to death. But let's be abundantly clear. I'd like to read a quote, if I may, from the Iranians about this particular money. Let's see. There was there's tens of billions in blocked assets. 119 is the current number. They've been chasing access to this, but they want the $6 billion. And the quote was, there was going to be this swap for the $6 billion hostage deal. This was the thing, and not one penny has been spent, even though the money was cashed for them to be able to buy, humanitarian stuff. They never tapped it. They never presented the U.S. and Qatar with a, hey, we're going to buy cotton swabs and antiseptic or food or Iowa soybeans, whatever it is that that Trump would think they're going to buy. They never took a penny out of it. That $6 billion, even though it was made available to them to use for their people for medical supplies. $6 billion in medical supplies is a lot. $6 billion in food is a lot, even doled out. But they never presented us with an invoice effectively saying, this is what we want to buy it with, because the money would go from Qatar to whoever that source was. And one of the other problems they have is the Betsy DeVos problem, which is everything they buy is actually covered for what they're actually buying. And Betsy DeVos sold them copiers that they turned into, they stripped for the circuit boards and turned into drones and weaponry. And everybody knows this. Like, again, because a modern office copier like the Xerox, like the big industrial ones, like the ones that dog Jane Fonda in 9 to 5, those type ones. Okay, those are basically like the Whopper in war games, and you can repurpose the circuit. It's basically a mainframe. It's basically a really high end desktop computer. And you can repurpose that for a lot of things. You can make a targeting system out of it. So the $6 billion.
Like reprogramming the Empire, the Imperial droids, like K2SO.
That's right. Yes, it's precisely that. Only it in color and you have to refill the ink. It's basically the same thing.
You don't need magenta.
That's right. It's always that cyan, man. I don't even use that much cyan. What the heck is happening? So
I just want to print something in black and white.
Right. Yeah. And stop telling me they're empty. Don't tell me the odds. So the odds of printing a document in full color without striated lines is 7%. Never tell me the odds. We're going to rewrite that whole thing as Office Space. Yeah. Basically, we're going to find out that Empire Strikes Back was actually Office Space with just different characters. So, yeah. Well, the copier is the Death Star. That's why they smashed it with the So they just moved it to the front. Anyways, point being is that I want everyone to remember this detail every time the negotiations are brought up on Fox News or anywhere else that you run across. That the Iranians want over $100 billion in sanctioned money to be released, or they're not going to live up to their end of the ceasefire. And to prove in good faith that that is going to happen, the first thing they want is $6 billion from a Qatar bank that Biden never gave them. That Trump says Biden gave him $6 billion. Every maggot online says that Biden gave him $6 billion. Well, then why do they still want access to it? Why, what they spent that on? They spent it on bombs and proxies. Remember, that's what everybody said. They took that money and they went right into business. No, they did not. It is still sitting in a bank in a country that Trump now has a golf deal with, and Tucker Carlson just bought a house in. It's in Qatar. Yeah. So let's take a break, and then I want to come back and talk about the economy. The economy. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right.
I think there's music. We go to break, maybe. Merber.
You hear me at all?
Yes, we hear you.
Now we can.
We just didn't hear the music. We just didn't hear the music coming our way.
What the hell's going on? All right.
Something's going on.
You're so quiet.
It's been a weird day here, so I can believe this is totally our account right now.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm fine with weird. I'm fine with all the weird not being my fault at any given time. So please. Right? Anytime I'm like, I did it right. I'm okay. I did everything I could. Hopefully we'll know when we come back in. In theory.
30 seconds if you hear me.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yes.
Fun to see Jen Psaki behind you.
Oh, he was lighting them up on Fox.
Yeah, that was
I love Pete. I mean, I can see President Pete. He's a smart dude.
Oh yeah, he's so good.
I think our current situation is VP Pete. VP, I think is what you call him, and then President after that, because he looks so young and kind of boyish. I think it would be a rough sell. But damn, he's smart. And I think he's got a stack where Secretary of State Pete Buttigieg would be money. He speaks multiple languages.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
So it shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone that inflation, not good, as Trump would say about Tylenol. The headline CPI is now 3.3%. That's up about like I guess 20%. It was 2.4% earlier this year. Still bad. If but if you take out energy and food, which everybody does, it's just 2.6%, which is still high.
Yeah.
Yeah, month over month, it's gone up almost a point, 0.9%, and overall, fairly terrible. Now, Trump is under the impression that as soon as he declares that this war is over, that it will be over, and
Yep.
therefore prices will basically crash.
Everything's just going to calm down.
Yeah, except for the fact that even without the war, food prices are up 2.7% year over year. They basically went up about 0.2% in the last little bit, which is, you know, all the price of oil going up. Now Trump was saying, you know, oil is everything. You bring down the price of oil, everything comes with it, right? Well, this war has affected the cost of food in the country about 0.2%.
Yeah.
That's not a major shift. And it's certainly still within the, you know, in the ballpark of prices continue to rise. Again, there is no situation where the prices go down unless there is a collapse in some area where we're literally like they're trying to move so much foodstuffs into markets like everything is just is a fire sale, that so much corn, so much soybean, so much wheat, and all this, you know, backed up beef, ham, eggs, all that stuff. If it gets so backed up that every grocery store is cutting it just so people will buy and consume it, maybe you drop the prices effectively. You go into a deflationary or disinflation, really, which is, you know, again, deflation bad, disinflation not bad. Disinflation is where we had too much inflation, we go back down to a normal pricing structure. But that rarely, if ever, happens. But if it were to happen, that would be why. It will happen because of automation and a lot of things over the next few years, that you're going to see certain things that'll get cheaper amongst your groceries on an extraordinary level, because those parts of the food industry have become so automated that they undercut the price of other stuff that's more expensive to produce, and therefore they can afford to drop their prices because people will buy more of it because the other stuff costs too much, because beef and other stuff will be at 5% or something like that. And so you can drop your stuff to, you know, you're still profitable even if you're not raising your prices year over year. That's I'm sorry, I understand I said there would be no math, but just, you know, just run with me on that. But my favorite quote, I think, is food prices have cooled somewhat, up 2.7% year over year. With some categories, Johnny Million, meat and dairy down, while others, fruits, beverages, and eating out, still rising faster.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, meats and dairies, you know, dairy went down. They include eggs, and that eggs heavily weighs that side of things because the price went up because of an extraordinary circumstance, not because of production, not because of transport, but because, you know, early last year, year over year, about this time, we still had high egg prices due to avian flu. And if it comes right back, they'll go right back because no one's taking.
Gotta get them chickens vaccinated.
Yes, that's right. Getting the jab my chicken is my
like
favorite
a
restaurant.
Big buff Robert F. Kennedy chicken going like,
yeah, right.
Don't do it.
Right. It's the great Gonzo. All items are inflation wise, all items up 3.3%, up sharply from 2.4%. The core, excluding food and energy, 2.6%. Edging higher. Energy is up 12.5% because of the war, obviously, and that's not going to come down. Gas is up 18%.
Yeah.
A major driver of the 2 points in the overall, or the 1 point in the overall. And then food is up 2.7, slower than the headline, but a mixed category. Like I said, meat and dairy down year over year, largely because eggs are part of that. The markets are treating this as confirmation the inflation downtrend has stalled, with investors paring back expectations for near-term Fed rate cuts. So the idea that the Fed is going to cut rates is increasingly looking like it's not going to happen. Commentary from outlets like MarketWatch, CNN, and Yahoo Finance is emphasizing the war-driven nature of the shock and the risk that elevated gas prices keep headline inflation above 3% for a while. Yeah. So obviously, this is not good news for the midterms for Republicans. Consumer confidence is in the crapper currently, and rightly so. I don't know anybody.
Really hard to try to do their what is it, that I rubber your glove? They can't do it now.
Right. Yes. That this, like, you guys are worse at it than we are. You want to raise prices. That was the other thing. So watch for this. And I've seen this increasingly, is that Trump may be rising prices everywhere. Trump may be, creating a situation where these gas prices are going up and he's started this war and all this stuff. But Democrats want the prices higher than this. If you elect them, they want the prices to go up. They want what happened, the supply shock that happened under Biden. They want it to occur. Now, I don't know what this is based on, and it is clearly insane. But that, again, with Republicans, just because it's stupid doesn't mean it's not the plan. And increasingly, we are going to see this sales pitch that you think this is bad. Democrats want to make it worse. Because if you'll notice, every immigration crime that happens, or a crime involving an immigrant, is Biden's open border policy is the reason for it, right? That he let everybody in, right? This 25 million people. And Homan and Noam, when she was in there before her husband, I don't know if you call it transitioning. I wouldn't, but I don't. Looked like an accident that happens at a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, just stretching out your shirt.
Yeah. Before that happened, both of them were bragging about the fact that, yes, we're going after the worst of the worst, like Biden and Obama, even though our numbers are lower than theirs. But just by getting into this country, you're committing a crime. You have broken the law, right? And therefore you're a criminal. There's no such thing as a non-criminal illegal in this country. That's the phrasing they've used. And that's straight out of Stephen Miller. That's the zero tolerance policy, right? That you broke into the country. B&E is a crime, whether you rob anything or kill anybody, it's still the act of breaking in is criminal enough, right? So if we treat America like a house.
Channels.
That's right. Or even if you tried to use the proper channels, but you were illegally kept out because of discrimination and, favoritism and money and whatever. So, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons. But their argument has been, we're getting the Democrats want these murderers and rapists and other people on the street, and they're fine with it, and they want this to happen to you. Increasingly, the problem that they have is that these crimes that happen are happening in the backdrop, when they do happen, rarely happening on the backdrop of the idea that they have moved away from removing, quote unquote, the worst of the worst, and are just rounding up farm workers and office workers and people who are in food industry and that kind of stuff, which increasingly looks like they're taking their eye off the ball of looking for genuine criminal aliens. And then the other problem that they have is, no matter, even if they do that, even the people that buy it, even the people that like this conversation, and they love that every immigrant is treated like a criminal, they're still not seeing mass deportations. There still isn't, trucks full of, undocumented, I don't know, like container trucks full of undocumented immigrants being driven into Mexico and dumped in the desert, right? Or like dropped off in Juarez and given $5 and a middle finger to just go back to wherever they came from, right? because that's what they want. That's what they, and I would argue that is what they were promised in not so many words. And on day one, mass deportations, the biggest deportation in the history of the country. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, because nobody's ever seen anything like anything that we've ever seen in the history of anything when it comes to Trump. Like everything, what you think this is bad, wait till you see what's coming. We have not seen that at all, right? Everything is he's got to one up everything he did, because you got to keep priming the pump. It's it's the this Viagra stopped working is basically the entire premise of the White House right now. Is that it? No matter how many I take, it still doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've got a situation, and again, we know why, because there aren't 25 to 35 million illegal immigrants that entered during Biden. The recidivism rate was 7 times what it was previous to COVID, because of Title 42 versus Title 8. If you're caught coming in on Title 8, which is what we're under normally, if you're rejected, if you try to come back in, you can never be a citizen. So people try once, and if they're caught, they leave and they can't come back in. So most of those folks go home, and those are the people who want a job. If under 42, if you get caught, they just eject you immediately. They're just like, nope, sorry, we're not taking anybody right now. So they process people just to keep a record, and then they send them back wherever they came from pretty quickly. So all the biggest mass deportations we ever had were at the border under Biden because of COVID specifically. Trump wanted to keep that part of it, but it became, again, if all of it happens just at saying no to people at the border, that doesn't quite fit what the Republicans want from this, what the maggots want from this. They want the people inside the country to be rounded up, the 10 to 11 million, which is a static number, to be rounded up. And the problem is, all those people have jobs. A lot of them have families. A lot of them, their kids are in school. Some of their kids don't even speak like fluent Spanish or Congolese, I guess, if it's Trump. They never grew up in the country that their parents came from.
Right.
So the idea, like, that's extracting cells from a living organism, as opposed to, like lancing a boil or cutting a wart off or some, external thing, or cutting your hair.
No, it's just disassembling society.
That's right. And again, maybe that's the goal. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Speaking of disassembling society, Trump was threatening to destroy one entirely. And I have a theory about which one it was. And it probably wasn't Iran. We'll be back right after this.
Well, he's hurting our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I saw in the chat that both of your YouTube streams are landscape. One is not portrait.
That's very strong. Curious. Why would that? What? How in the world? Is one of them like shaped? I guess not, because I don't see the thing. This thing's in beta when it does it. So let's see. Edit the channels. Let's see the thing. It says YouTube right here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I will remedy that. I don't know why. That's odd.
Yeah.
It's a beta thing on Restream Studio, so it might, because I don't see it. I don't see a vertical thing, but I also don't see that it's streaming too from my end. So sorry, everybody. Yeah, that's odd. Let's try this.
We'll survive.
We'll make it.
60 seconds.
Thank you. where is it? Here it is. Okay. All right. So, have you seen Trump's latest truth sinkhole post?
Maybe not.
Look it up. Maybe I feel like you have to. You might have to
Okay.
read it for us. We have to do a Johnny Million book on tape. 8 o'clock this morning.
Oh, it wasn't the graphic video of the hammer attack?
Mm-mm. Yeah, that was terrible as well. I mean, that's just him basically ripping off Twitter.
Now back to Hal Sparks on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
That's me. That's me. That's this show. So, Johnny Million, do you see the latest truth sinkhole post?
Is
from
it the fake news media has lost
yes.
total credibility? Okay, yeah,
No,
they've
it's the
lost
fake
total
news media is
credibility.
crazy. Is crazy.
Not that they
Did you
had
see that
any
one?
to begin with, because of their massive Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. Wow. They love saying that Iran is winning, when in fact everyone knows that they are losing, and losing big. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft apparatus is non-existent, radar is dead, their missile and drone factories have been largely obliterated. He's being more careful with that.
Largely.
Along with the missiles and drones themselves. And most importantly, their longtime leaders are no longer with us. Praise be to Allah. That is just so horrible when he does that.
Yeah.
The only thing they have going is the threat that a ship may, quote, bunk into one of their sea mines, which, by the way,
Yes.
all 28 of their mine dropper boats are lying at the bottom of the sea. We're now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz as a favor to the countries all over the world, because parenthetically, I forced it closed by attacking Iran.
Yeah, exactly. Including
incredibly, they don't have the courage or will to do this work themselves. Okay. Very interestingly, however, empty oil carrying ships from many nations are all headed to the United States of America to load up with oil. No, they're not.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Matter.
Yeah. So we're selling oil to China now instead of them. So we're getting their oil market. So, but that was, he decided, I think, that was too wordy after his 3-page screed attacking Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, which was a joy to behold, by the way. We'll get into that in a minute. This is what he posted just a few moments ago. The fake news media is crazy. Or just plain corrupt, all caps. The United States has completely destroyed Iran's military, including their Navy and Air Force and everything else. Their leadership is dead. The Strait of Hormuz will soon be open, and the empty ships are rushing to the United States to load up. But if you listen to the fake news, we're losing. President Donald J. Trump. So he basically decided that his people aren't going to read that whole thing that you just read.
Yeah, that was a
so
lie.
he did a Cliff Notes version of it.
Let me get some talking points my folks can run with.
I have a couple of questions that immediately come to mind, Johnny Million. One, how do you negotiate with a country if their, quote, leadership is dead?
And it starts with a shovel.
It does. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Dig them up and yell at them. That's what I would. Yeah. Cut to JD Vance sitting at a table across from 3 corpses.
A decaying corpse.
Right. Yeah. With just flies buzzing all around him. Him turning to Steve Witkoff and going, "How is it they still have more personality than I do?"
Yeah.
And also, why would you be negotiating with anybody if their military, their Navy, and their Air Force, and everything else was completely destroyed? What do you have to? I mean,
when you say obliterated,
right? It's obliterated. Wink, wink. I will say that there, this one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest things this week, and obviously one that may have triggered a myriad of defections from MAGAdom, which is, of course, his threat to annihilate an entire civilization. I mean, when you lost, he lost Alex Jones and Megyn Kelly, like, for real and forever, it seems, this week. Now we'll see if it sticks. But Megyn Kelly swore up a storm on the air.
For real?
I pity, was Devin working on Tuesday? Because dang, son, if they were playing clips, it was a nightmare diving for that dump button. Although they certainly didn't do it on the news.
And they
Like
just let it fly?
oh yeah, I saw that completely unedited, not beeped at all on CNN, on MS Now. Yeah, hilarious. In the meantime, though, there have been there's a situation where his threat to destroy a civilization may have actually been aimed at the world of magatry. It may have, he did this huge post. I'm trying to pull it up on here right now, because he's just been blazing all these things out. Almost 3 pages where he went after Megyn Kelly, where he went after Tucker Carlson, where he went after Candace Owens, where he defended Macron's wife, who Candace Owens has said is a man. And his defense of Macron's wife was that,
how can you live like that? How can you just keep? Can you imagine trying to go to sleep with these thoughts just screaming through your head?
No, I cannot, thank God. And I don't think I'm going to find out anytime soon.
No.
Because, we had Doc Adam on the show yesterday talking about, his decline, about Trump's decline. And one of the things that's abundantly clear is he's got disinhibition. He can't hold back anymore. So it's one of those situations, it's like that whole problematic bit that I used to like, problematic, that
Right.
as a buzzword, the idea that, you wind up grandma and she says something really uncomfortable at the dining room table because problematic is the game to play. So this is his response. And I want people to enjoy this one, because this is taking up as much hard drive space in his head as gas prices and the fact that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms and the war in Iran. And all right, I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the number one state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon. So just, first of all, he says this about Democrats too, but think about that for a second. They think it's wonderful for Iran. Now, under normal circumstances, I would think he is speaking euphemistically or ironically. However, at this point, I don't think so. I think he is absolutely, he's like, oh, you guys want them to have it? They probably want them to have the ability to nuke Israel. That's where this comes from, right?
Yeah.
So he wants to stack the anti-Semitic thing in his corner and use that as a cudgel, right? Because they have one thing in common: low IQs.
Yeah.
They are stupid people.
That's his favorite thing to say.
That's right. It's now become a boring refrain. It's so common. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't even have what it takes, and they never did. I don't know, it takes to do what? They've all got millions of followers and make millions of dollars. I mean,
they don't have what it takes to sell their soul to the devil.
Right. Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I think they do. I just think they lost it, and in between the couch cushions or something.
They're like it. Yeah. Right now they're going about that soul.
Yeah. Can I take a look at that?
That was more like a layaway
again?
thing. Like,
right.
I feel like I just pawned it.
They've all been thrown off television, lost their shows, and aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, all caps, troublemakers, all caps, and will say anything necessary for free, in quotes, and cheap publicity. And now they think they can get some clicks, in quotes. I don't know why, because they have third-rate podcasts.
When they say it takes one to know one, I mean, this guy is calling a spade a spade.
Right.
He knows what he speaks.
Yeah, this is a shovel looking in the mirror, but nobody's talking about them, and their views are the opposite of MAGA. or I wouldn't have won the presidential election in a landslide, all caps.
Landslide.
MAGA agrees with me and just gave CNN a 100% approval rating of Trump in all caps and quotes. He puts his last name in quotes and all caps. Not hand-flailing fools like Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Okay, broken clock moment from Trump. Or Megyn Kelly.
Hasn't he already got on Tucker's post?
Oh yeah, he had him to the White House several times. He had him to the White House right before this, right? Apparently it's just, he's like surrounding himself with losers. So that, fair warning to everybody who might go this. So, let's see. Or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question. Or crazy, in quotes, Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in the ongoing lawsuit. Actually,
Candace Owens like a real MAGA loony bird?
Oh yeah, she was a straight up TPU. She didn't. The Charlie Kirk thing made her snap. Yeah, she was on board, I think, largely because she turned Catholic, she converted to Catholicism, and because of the anti-abortion stance, and stuck to that. And then that became a rubbing point between her and Ben Shapiro, and she was clearly viewed by Ben Shapiro and other people at the Daily Wire as, when she worked there, as being anti-Semitic, as opposed to just criticizing the Israeli government, which other people on that network do. She went a few steps further, and then Charlie Kirk died, and then she went after Erica Kirk, and just kind of, she's been in. She's like the Mean
Erica
Girls
Kirk
Alex
was
Jones.
Low-hanging fruit for a while there.
Yes, yeah, and it's still happening. That ship has not sailed on the maggot side at all. Oh, no.
Still freaking out.
Oh yeah, it's their favorite. How do I not talk about Epstein? Talk about Charlie Kirk. It's the worst. Yeah. So let me try and finish this before we have to go to break. Jesus, it's so long. Crazy Candace Owens. Okay, when she is not a man, and we'll hopefully win this. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is a far more beautiful woman than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Okay. Candace Owens, crazy as she is an attractive young lady, and Brigitte Macron is a beautiful older woman, but she's clearly baby. She's a man baby, right? She's much older. It isn't even about the aesthetic beauty of an older woman versus a younger woman. Trump would never believe that in a million years. The idea that it boils down to one thing: skin color. That's why he thinks her whole thing about Erica Kirk is an attack. That she's attacking Erica Kirk all the time because she's jealous because Erica Kirk is blonde and white. That's why. She must be. Look at her. She's like every black woman that looks like, and it's just that's definitely where his brain is. Okay. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have.
Yet I hate agreeing with any of these people.
For his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. Another broken clock moment. These so-called pundits, in quotes, are losers, all caps, and they always will be. Now fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all of the other radical left news organizations are hailing them, in quotes, and giving them positive, in quotes, press for the first time of their lives. They're not MAGA, in quotes. They're losers. This is the third time he's called them losers in his one post. Just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to, but when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times,
another thing,
right? Yeah, right. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for because green grass turns brown when it's.
Wow.
He normally explains it, but he just moved on from this. And by the way, the word brown in and of itself, again, a little on the nose on a bunch of fronts, right? Anyways, I only care about doing right for MAGA is about winning and strength in all caps, and not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again in all caps. And these people have no idea how to do it, but I do in all caps, because the United States is now the hottest country, and hottest is in quotes. This entire sentence is in all caps. The United States is now the hottest country anywhere in the world. President Donald J. Trump. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I think MAGA is the civilization he was threatening to destroy, and I think he went through with it. Next up, Melania.
I remember having like just really invasive thoughts when I was like, when puberty was just like ruining me, and I'd be like, and then that person doesn't even like that person,
Short
and then
break, 20 seconds.
They would be
Thank
friends
you,
with
yeah.
me because I would like these are the thoughts I had. It was horrible. I hated being a teenager. I hated that that kind of confusion. He's never let it go.
Never. He's got the brain of an eighth grader. Yeah, he's just
For real. It is. It's the brain and the motivation.
This is Damian
of an
Perdue
eighth
of
grader,
Think
too.
Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Okay, now we move on to the unforced error part of the program, where all of us in the middle of this, with the Iran war, ceasefire, civilization, obliteration, the White House clearly knowing that the economic numbers coming out this week were going to be terrible, that gas prices are up. You got enough. They got plenty of fish to fry. Out of seemingly nowhere, which again we'll talk about why it's not. Melania Trump doesn't just release a statement kind of under the radar, just put out a written statement and call it a day. She walks out to the same podium the president uses in the same hallway where she just walked with a robot last week, and puts
She walked with the robot?
Yeah, they had one of the figure threes walk out with her and speak, and it was one of the male-bodied ones, and they gave it a female voice because they're empowering women, and you're like, dude, what is a woman?
Oh, no.
What's a woman? You
What's
just
a
gave
woman? Why can't you just answer that question? What's a woman?
Yeah, right. Well, it's definitely not a male mannequin with a female speaker in it, dummy. Just so stupid. So
a lot of you remember when I was out here last, I was with a robot or a himbot, if you will.
Mm-hmm. The Himbo 5000.
Hello.
With the muscles and the sweating and the blonde hair and the thingies.
The very masculine voice.
Yes, right. So she could have just, for God's sake, she could have just released a written statement and gone about her day, but she had to
just leave it alone, or just don't hang out with a predator.
Well, we'll get to why she felt the need to do this.
I am curious as to why. I keep seeing these theories kind of come and go.
Okay. Let's just start with no public statement is under oath. Let's just start there. That anything said in at a podium or at a press conference is not the same as something said under oath.
Oh yeah,
and you do
I don't
not
stand by anything I've said on this show.
I don't either. I don't stand by anything you say on this show.
I did not swear Johnny in.
No, that's right. Yeah. And okay, which by the way brings me to
Andrew gave me a compliment on my Melania impression. That was
good. I liked it. I think you're in charge of doing it from now on. You should look up her statement.
No.
Unfortunately, I think you will do it wrong in that you will pronounce all the words right.
Yeah, it's really hard to mispronounce the words.
Okay. There's so much about this to unpack, and we don't have that much time. So let me break down the one thing. Okay. So not only is it not under oath, but one of the things that got unpacked this week by Tucker Carlson and what got him attacked was that he pointed out that Donald Trump didn't put his hand on the Bible the last time he was sworn in. When he was sworn in last year, he didn't put his hand on the Bible.
Which he doesn't have to do, by the way.
Right. Well, you can put it on, book of the laws of the country. Yeah. And the other thing was the first time he did it, there was a strange red box underneath the Bible. And was the Bible upside down? Was he swearing on an altar to Baal?
I like this.
I love it. I'm a big fan.
And it was a Donnie Marie box set, a CD box set.
All right, no one is that evil. Actually, I have to say,
I'm a little bit country.
Yeah, I'm being a little, and Donald is a little bit rock and roll.
A little bit rock and roll. Oh my gosh, Donald, Donnie, Melania, it's all coming together.
Oh my God, Donald and Marie, oh my God, we're living in some sort of 70s time loop. I knew it. So, oh my God, so that became a thing. Like people started noticing, like, oh, Pam Bondi came down. She tried to speak without going under oath. And then when they called her in to speak under oath anyways, Trump ditched her. Like, get her out of here. She cannot be forced to testify. Now, Hillary Clinton never hung out with Epstein. And I think Maxwell showed up at her daughter's wedding as a +1 of somebody else, right? Which is how those kind of circles work, right? But she didn't know anything about it. She just didn't. So if she can be brought in as a former first lady, current first lady certainly could. So one of the things you do is like, oh no, I don't need to speak under oath. I will just tell you everything, and we will put this to bed in public. That's
what she said.
That's what she said was a myriad of things. But she said, and largely this has to do with you remember when she had a $1 billion lawsuit against Hunter Biden for what he said about her relationship with Epstein, and that Trump, the same thing Michael Wolff said?
No.
Yeah, she threatened that, and Hunter Biden did an interview after the election and was like, F you, lady, bring it on. Give it a try.
Let's depose.
Yeah, let's do this, right? Because, both of them, her and her husband, both, the word they fear more than anything is discovery. Because that's what happens in these cases. Once you are going to say you're wrong about this, you had no right to say this about me. If somebody can go, that was my opinion, Your Honor, or I have good evidence that this is it. And the only way you can refute that evidence is if they have an email of yours that they added words to or modified, you can show them the real email and say, this is the actual one that was sent, and I have a receipt for this, or whatever, or the letter that I sent, or this picture was cut, cropped. Here's the original, right? You can do that. That's the discovery part. But they can also go, was that the only picture from that? Because it looks like you took a bunch of them and you brought in this one, but this is actually cut from another one, Your Honor. We'd like to see everything on that camera roll. That's where this goes. This is why all of these cases die before they ever go to court. So one of the, I honest to God, I don't know why she thought this was a good idea. She went. She said a lot in this. The lies linking me with the disgraced Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. Individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. This is why Trump said I didn't know she was going to make the statement, but it sounds exactly like him. Yeah. I have never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. I got news for you. I know a lot of people that live in New York, and some of them, showrunners and people like that have pretty decent money about them, and they were never invited to these parties. They never, They never go like, I bumped into Howard Nutlick at a party and he invited me to this other thing, right? No, that is your social circle. It wasn't an overlapping social circle, and if it was, you have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, that Venn diagram is just a circle.
So there's one email from Melania that just came out in a tranche about a month ago to Ghislaine Maxwell. where she's like, "Can't wait to see you in New York. Call me when you're around." And right, and so she goes, "My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note." Well, in the context of your friendship, maybe that's true, right? Again, legalese being what it is. One of the things that she refers to their conversations, and I don't know why she thinks this is a win. These are the words that stood out to me. As casual correspondence. Sorry, you were having casual correspondence, which assumes regularity. I've never had casual correspondence with someone I've emailed once. Like, I would never define it as such, right? You would only say casual correspondence if they were basically a lazy pen pal that you talk to fairly regularly, right? That they emailed you and you emailed them back, and this happened several times. There's no such thing as casual correspondence once. What are you talking about? Which means they're just trying to get ahead of something. That this is the straight up Roy Cohn situation where something's about to drop, and Blanche is doing everything he can to stop it from coming out, but it is not going to work. There is a law that, whether he follows it or not, will be followed at some point, especially if Democrats take the House and the Senate. If you guys want to see these people go away, the only way to do it is to vote for the D in your district that can win the seat. Period. End of story. There is no other recourse. Casual correspondence. What the? Get GTFOOH.
Huh?
Yeah. It's stunning. All right. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So is the internet going to reset at noon?
No, it's not a hotel. It's an Airbnb.
Oh, good.
And it's only 10 o'clock here.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah. But at exactly the end of the show, where I think our checkout time is 11. So I got to like slap everything and throw it in my bag. And
someone will like pick up like when your parents picked up the phone
right.
on the on the other extension.
That's right. Like, what are you guys doing here? Okay, here's Philip Bitner joining us right now. There he is. Welcome, sir.
Philip Bitner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And off they come. Last
Yeah.
time I caught him in glasses.
Yes, we are. We're in a break.
All right, great.
Yep.
Look at Phil with all the electricity.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's
showing off.
Are you in Chicago, Johnny?
He's in his tech billionaire
this is my
backdrop.
It's my vacation spot.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yep. Yeah, Johnny Million created an app for guitar players called Look at Me.
Look at me. I need to change my I've actually got a virtual background that I use when Phil is on. Boom.
Oh, there you go.
That better, Phil? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So, hi, how are you? We're in the middle of the Iran negotiations with Captain Super Riz, which will be hilarious, no doubt. JD Vance is over in Islamabad right now. Islamabad. Islamabad. So
terrible city.
Terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Yeah, like on
Rawalpindi's okay, and the mountaintop, the kind of mountains that surround Islamabad are okay, but Islamabad itself is a terrible city.
Mm-hmm.
It's boring.
It's
like a shades of a Gulf state.
Mm-hmm.
Big, broad highways and just empty office buildings and Pindy's nice. Pindy's okay. And the restaurants overlooking Istanbul, or I'm sorry, Islamabad are they're okay. Good barbecue.
Good
Barbecued
barbecue?
what?
Mostly lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly lamb. They don't do lamb or chicken. They don't do
Mm-hmm.
cow. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
being Islamic, they don't do pig. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Missing out.
I've heard that so many times.
little
I don't do
kebabs.
pigs. Whatever.
Yeah.
You're lost.
Yeah. By the way, a couple of things. Ukraine has advanced on 4 front lines. I mean, and then I guess the Easter truce, right up until the Easter truce started, sort of. Kremlin says it's on, but it's not really.
No.
I guess it's hard to say. Thank you.
No, it's not really.
Right. That was I was fairly certain that was the case.
Yeah. We've had a couple of air attacks over the last 24 hours. So no, it's
Right.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you if the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So, welcome, Philip Bitner, live from Kyiv, host of On the Edge. Check out the Philip Bitner YouTube channel if you have a chance. I recommend it very highly. Johnny Million is still with us. He's going to be farming questions for Phil from the chat. And then I want to start off with the parallels, I would say, or the lack thereof. It depends on which section we're talking about, between the conversations about peace between the U.S. and Iran and Russia and Ukraine, and how Trump is acting very Putin-esque in a lot of these situations, and that they have just started taking like there's been this thing with Trump where he's everything, every accusation is a confession, and
Right.
and that both sides are equal, even if one side attacked the other. It's their fault, we had to attack them, and therefore they owe us, they have to pay us back for the attack we had to do, that kind of stuff. Because that's exactly what Lavrov said this week, that there are that the Russian war cannot end without security guarantees for Russia. That he's borrowed the language of security guarantees for Ukraine and is now using them for Russia. Now, Lavrov is gross. Let's just start there. He's a disgusting human being on all fronts. He's just creepy and cruel and exactly who you'd expect Putin to put in charge of killing a lot of people. But he said security guarantees for Russia are necessary for any settlement of the war in Ukraine, and complained that the European Union is speaking only about assurances for Ukraine. His quote is, "Now, with the prospects for a political and diplomatic settlement on the horizon, the European Union decided it wanted a place at the negotiating table and started talking about security guarantees for Ukraine as a key element of the peaceful solution. Let us omit the fact that nobody in the European Union mentioned security guarantees for Russia, though the conflict cannot be resolved without this." And he referred to a prevailing Nazi-like approach to human rights in Brussels and claimed that Ukraine is, quote, destroying all things Russian. He further asserted the situation regarding the Russians, whom he cannot refer to as a minority, is severe in Ukraine, meaning that they're being abused, the poor Russians in Ukraine. I can't tell if he means by race or by creed. But yeah. So
yeah. I mean, there are two big things. The Russians' two big things when it comes to stuff like this is language and religion, and both of which they use. It's not accurate.
Right. On purpose, I would say.
Firstly, nobody is restricted from speaking Russian in
right.
Ukraine. they you know, they have certain kind of like regulations where like you're supposed to initially address somebody in Ukrainian if you're at a service center or a restaurant or something like that, or certainly a government facility. But if the person responds in Russian, then if you're able to speak Russian, you're required to kind of respond in whatever language that they address you in.
Right.
And then the other thing is the religion, and that is they claim that the Russian Orthodox Church is being prosecuted here.
Right.
Well, it's being prosecuted here, but the only religion that has restrictions on it, the only churches that have restrictions on them are, yes, indeed, those churches that pledge their allegiance to the patriarch in Moscow, because there has been a regular systemic use of churches as a place to hide weapons, propaganda, money, hide insurgents. They're basically a fifth column. That's why Kiev has a restriction on certain churches that are within the Moscow Patriarchy. So those are the only two like cultural things that are Russian that have legal regulation put on them. Everything else is fine. I mean, there have been widespread communal decisions to like change the names of metro stations from Tolstoy metro station is now the station Heroes of Ukraine,
right?
Because Tolstoy was a Russian, and so under the Soviet system, they would name street corner, streets would be named after Lenin, or they would be named after a czar, and publicly there was action to change those by municipalities and by vote. But there is no overt without reason, as I say, with like churches hiding money and insurgents. There's no legal precedent to shutting down Russia or Russian culture or Russian history.
Right.
Most of those things are done by kind of communal decision.
Right. And like it's largely smoke. Let's just be honest. Like they're using stuff that is leverage in other countries, religious freedom and sort of racial purity or whatever, whoever they think they're affirming this with, either in the right wing in our country or in Europe, trying to reinforce that. They had I think it was I want to say it was in Germany. They had a local candidate for something killed, a woman killed by a group called the Nazien Socialisten Unterground, like German, the Nazi, so the Nazi underground killed her, and so there's this immigrant driven right wing reaction that's been going on in Europe. Russia appeals to that in the same way that they appeal with their sort of anti-gay stance to the right wing in our country, when in reality it doesn't come from an organic place of that being that important to them in a lot of cases. They had that one, I don't know, diplomat's kid who was doing all the modeling, in these sort of underground sex clubs in Moscow a couple years ago. Remember that guy? That became a scandal, or they were throwing these like eyes wide shutty kind of leather parties and stuff. So the idea that they're somehow like we need to be pure, like they're a branch Davidians or something, is absurd. Actually, it's a better analogy for them. They're like the branch Davidians, like we're going to be pure the way God's pure. Meanwhile, child brides, it's a lot closer to that. I'm sure we're going to have questions from the chat room.
Yep,
But the
I got a
other,
few.
the other thing I want to bring up before we go to break, and we'll come back to them, is that there have been let me see if I can find this. Yeah, the biggest, news of the week is that we showed on, when you and I spoke on Wednesday, we showed this big chunk of the map up on ISW that Ukraine had taken back, like a huge chunk of land, and now they are advancing on 4 different fronts at the same time. Right up to the Easter break, because is Easter this weekend? It was this weekend for them. Ours was last week.
Eastern Orthodox Easter is this week.
Orthodox, maybe.
That's right. So, like, kind of leading up to that truce, or that alleged truce, and it's hard to say whether that's real or imagined or PR or something genuine. We'll see. But ultimately, leading up to that, the Ukrainians, one of the reasons the Russians seem to agree to it so strongly this time around is because they were losing. They needed the break. Because they were having their ass handed to them on a bunch of fronts. 4 fronts at once the Ukrainians are making an advance. That's a failure of personnel on the Russian side. That's, that isn't that they ran out of drones. That's that they're running out of meat wave people in a very serious way. So that, just what have you heard about that? What's in the news there, or in your, kind of sphere of the, what's the feeling like, right, I guess now in Ukraine as well, about what's happening on the front line?
Well, there are counteroffensives going on up in the northeastern sector around Pokrovsk and some of the fortress cities.
Kupiansk, Slovansky, Pokrovsk, and Hulyapil. If I'm pronouncing that right.
That's the northeastern front. That's the Russians trying to push through to these so-called fortress cities, which, to be fair, if they can punch through those, there's a lot of open land that leads to some of the major cities in eastern Ukraine, and indeed even Kiev. But the Ukrainians have actually been very proactive in creating trench lines that, should that happen, that it won't be as easy as it may have been 2-3 years ago. Even Zelensky made a point, was it Zelensky or the head of the army, Zaluzhny, who said, this is not, the situation is not the same as when the war began. So even if they get through those fortress cities, which is a big, big, big if, because those are cities that are made for hundreds of thousands of people, and they're industrial. And so, turning a tractor factory into a fortress is not that difficult. And then the other frontline areas are down in the southeast, where the Ukrainians have been on the offensive, not counteroffensive, but straight up offensive, trying to push towards the Sea of Azov, which would cut off the land bridge from mainland Russia to the Crimean Peninsula. And if they're able to do that, then I think that's when the bridge comes down, because there's only 2 ways to support Crimea, and that is by the land bridge or by the Kerch Strait Bridge, which is very problematic because it was built with a lot of corruption and shadiness and bad engineering, and Putin wanted it made quick, so it was made quick but not good. And if they're able to do that, the land bridge that goes along the eastern seaboard of Ukraine, along the Sea of Azov, and the bridge, which is it is only up as long as the Ukrainians are biding their time and keeping their powder dry, because they have the capability to do it. And what that will do to Crimea, which is a really, really difficult place to support because it doesn't have its own water supply, it's going to cut off Crimea. It will make life there very difficult for the population, and it will change the strategic dynamic in the Black Sea.
Right. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Houseparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yeah, it was there are a bunch of areas where ISW has been pointing out the fact that there are a lot of areas that Russia claims it has, but there's no evidence they actually do via satellite imagery. So it's really just them insisting, but they don't hold the ground.
Yeah, and a lot of it is also ground that's just open field. There's no real strategic advantage to it until you start getting to roadways or cities or things like that. So, yeah. No, they're not. They're losing. They're going to lose the war.
Yep. Yeah,
and we've known it for a while.
Right. Yeah, they've been hitting
that. And maybe Trump is in the Epstein files.
Yeah, maybe so.
People have to come to terms with.
Stand by, coming back.
Thank you, Doug, in the chat room. Appreciate that.
Now let's get back with Houseparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So I know we have a lot of questions from the chat room, so let's grab a few, Johnny Million. What do we have?
Yeah, first up, I've got from Nick Rich. Does Phil have any news about drone manufacturing in Ukraine for the war effort?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, lots. Go to my YouTube channel. I mean, I've done.
You were there, at one of their facilities.
I was there at one of their facilities about a month ago, but I've spoken to guys that are doing the tech. I've spoken to the guys that are actually implementing them, developing them, how they use them strategically, how they defend against Russian drones. Yeah, it's a drone war, and it's
Ukraine. For the record, Ukraine is now producing somewhere in the order of 4 million drones a year. In 2022, they were making 20,000 a year. By 2025, they were making 200,000 a year. They are now producing 4 million a year. FPV and kamikaze drones, bomber drones, surveillance drones, the giant octocopters that look like they're for farming most of the time. Those are used for reconnaissance and for dropping large munitions. They've got a lot of these small quadcopters that can drop a grenade or a mortar. 4 million. Think about the production ramp up that Ukrainians have done in 3 years.
Increasingly, they're even developing land drones.
The roving machine guns,
and they've
the Navy drones.
And they've gotten and the naval drones, which has, Ukraine doesn't have a navy, but because of their drone technology, they've forced the Russian Black Sea Fleet to.
They're never going to need one. Yeah. That's the amazing thing about the drone warfare that they have come up with of, basically first repurposing speedboats and then creating these little drone boats that they make, these like canoes, these outboards with that are water missiles effectively that can be guided or can loiter and then hit something like, and by the way, a lot more, I think, ethical than sea mines is a loitering drone because you can always call it off.
Yeah. And they've pushed them out of their naval base at Sevastopol, where the Russian Navy, the Russian Black Sea Fleet, Russia has 4 fleets, the Arctic, the Baltic, the Black Sea and the Pacific, and they've effectively lost two of them. They've lost the Baltic because Finland has joined NATO, and so basically the Baltic Sea is now a Finland, or is now a NATO kind of tributary. It's kind of a inland sea, NATO inland sea, and because of Ukraine's naval drone technology, they've pushed them out of their home port at Sevastopol, where they've been based for 200 years, and they pushed them to the far east bank of the Black Sea, which is humiliating for them. So, yeah, I mean, all of these things, the Ukrainians are better at drones than pretty much anybody in the world. I've been to places where they're adapting them not 5 kilometers off the front line, so that they can alter them for different mission, parameters, and then get them out and deployed as quickly as possible. So, they're at the very forefront, and at the point where they're actually also now exporting drones, because the war has gotten. It's not that the drones that they're exporting aren't good. It's just that the war has so moved forward that those drones don't serve a purpose anymore. They don't fit within the dynamic of what is happening on the front line. So they're starting to sell them to other countries, including the Gulf now during the crisis in the Gulf. So, Ukraine is increasingly becoming a leader in military industrial production, and replacing America in many ways.
I think it's called Viri Drones. It's one of the big companies there, or whatever. They're sourcing 80% of what they use to make them in country, which is more than almost any other drone manufacturer in the world, including Iran. That they're making most of those things there because the Ukrainians have the capacity, for example, to make 2-stroke motors. And they can make their own version of Shahed if they wanted to fairly easily. They're using electric motors almost exclusively just because they're one way. And one of the things about an electric, a gas motor or whatever, it's noisy, but also it's heavier and therefore, changes the shape of the entire apparatus. And so they, but if they, they make those, they make, loiter drones and kamikaze drones, the bigger ones. And they can do that in house, like in country.
And they've got counter Shahed drones being the primary kind of like Iranian-based technology that is now being developed domestically within Russia. Ukraine has developed these drones that are vertical takeoff and landing, although they're not built to land, but the concept is the same. They're launched vertically, and then they turn and they go directly at the Shahed. So you can get them in the air quickly, target an incoming Shahed, and it doesn't take a lot of time for it to launch, get at altitude, get a trajectory, and hit whatever's coming in. The Ukrainians have the best drone technology in the world.
Yeah. Well, and also, if I may, they have pushed something called the China Free, which is their idea that in the beginning they were using a lot of technology that they were either having to buy in whole or in part from China. And they have pushed for this entirely separate from China's entire input in it. Largely the electronics and the motors were the things that most people would get. Now I think they're down to like 90% of the stuff that they, for the smaller ones especially, they can get in country, and they buy the stuff that they don't have from European companies. So they're completely out of business with China, which is a huge move for the security of Europe and ultimately the United States. DJI, one of the biggest drone companies in the world, which is run out of China, is now technically illegal in the United States. You can, they, because of all the malware built into the computers that are used to control them. So there are strategic and security reasons to avoid them.
Yeah, when I was last out at the front lines with this drone unit, one of the things that they were doing was that they were taking DJI drones, but they were then taking out the command and control chip and the communication chip and replacing them with domestically created chips so that they could use the hardware, but they just took out the things that were proprietary and possibly compromising from China and replacing them with Ukrainian chips. So they are so far ahead of pretty much anybody. I mean, obviously the Chinese and the Russians and to a certain degree the Iranians are at parity. In some ways at parity, but I would argue that with the ability to create their own drone surplus, the Ukrainians are pretty much at the forefront of everything. We still do really big drones, NATO powers. We do like Predators and Reapers and things like that that can drop Hellfire missiles and things like that. And those are effective weapon systems. But I've spoken to so many Ukrainians who go to the West as consultants, and they come back, and what they tell me is what the West doesn't understand is you don't want big, costly, large platform drones. You want multitudes of drones. You want swarms. You want to be able to overwhelm.
Yeah, 1,000 small ones are better than 5 big ones, especially in these kind of circumstances where they're considered anti-personnel, sort of like air mines almost. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to discuss the fact that sort of China-free aspect of things is a growing part of this, because the U.S. intelligence community just released a statement that China is going to be supplying, or is supplying, Iran, probably both, with air defense systems. And there's going to be an increasing move, whether Trump wants to get out of NATO or not, to use, to be China free in every aspect of any technology that can backdoor into your defense. We'll be back right after this. Yeah, U.S. intelligence indicates China is preparing to deliver new air defense systems to Iran within the next few weeks. CNN reported it on Friday, citing 3 people familiar with the recent report. These systems pose an asymmetric threat to low-flying U.S. military aircraft, as demonstrated during the 5-week war. They could continue to do so if the ceasefire breaks down. So that's the idea, is that they're bringing this stuff in with the assumption that we're going to resume fighting.
Yeah.
Like this, the whole JD Vance. It's stupid.
Yeah. The whole thing is stupid.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know what he's gonna be doing there in the negotiations at all.
I'll be right back.
Okay, good luck.
Led around by his nose, I suspect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think
they'll play him for the fool.
I wanted to look up something real quick while we're in break. By the way, hit the like, share the show. I forget, whenever I'm scrambling against the internet, I always forget to say that. So thank you guys so much for the super chats and the support and all that. Johnny will be back in just a moment. And in the meantime, let me look at this. Yeah, live, there are currently high stakes. I love how everybody refers to this crap. High stakes talks. Sources say U.S. delegation led by J.D. Vance met directly with Iranian officials in Pakistan on Saturday, marking a significant moment for 2 countries that have typically held high-level talks through intermediaries. The first phase of negotiations has concluded after officials exchanged written outlines of key issues. We already had a written outline of key issues. That's what got them there in the first place. Oh, we got an outline. Great. An outline. Jesus. Okay. And 2 U.S. Navy vessels have begun clearing mines from the Strait of Hormuz. the military said after Trump slammed other countries.
Back in 20.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Israel's ongoing military campaign against Hezbollah has threatened to derail peace efforts. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know this. Israeli and Lebanese diplomats plan to meet next week. Although they're not really bombing Lebanon, they're bombing Hezbollah in the intermediary. Like,
welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So we got other questions, I have no doubt, Johnny, but I was giving everybody during the break a couple of like updates. The first talks have concluded in Islamabad. We have, no surprise, everlasting peace in the Middle East now. It's done. The Riz has spoken. JD Vance, brought his big boy pants and sat down with these folks and gave them what for. And so after all this, we, I don't know if you know this, we now have a written outline of something that both sides want, maybe. It's literally the first phase of negotiations has concluded after officials exchanged written outlines of key issues. That's what we had last week. We had a 15-point list. They had a 10-point list. That was the outline. This is such a waste of time. And because I don't even know if Trump wants it to succeed. This is getting into Putin-esque territory, where you want these things to fail, so you have an excuse to keep bombing.
Right.
And then the JCPA was the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. I was there for those negotiations, and they were so difficult.
Yeah,
but I remember the night that John Kerry came in, and they'd come to an agreement, and he'd come in to basically ratify it, and it was done. It was done. It was finished. We could go and monitor their facilities. We had access. They promised not to develop beyond a certain level of enrichment for weapons grade.
Yep.
This was resolved. This was 100% resolved. But because it was an Obama deal, Trump just couldn't let it be.
Yeah, it couldn't stand with his name on it. He just basically wants to scratch it out, do the exact same thing, put his name on it, but after some macho bombing.
Worse.
Yes, of course. The talks between Iran and U.S. have entered, quote, the expert level stage, in which committees specializing in economic, military, legal, and nuclear issues meet with each other. Iran's government posted on X this afternoon. Negotiations are continuing to finalize technical details. The Post added, Iran's delegation contains 71 people, including negotiators, experts, media representatives, and security state-affiliated outlet Tasnim reported. While the U.S. has also brought a full suite of experts on relevant subject areas, a senior White House official said, we have 6 people there. A full suite. We have 6 people. And none of them have the ability to okay anything. Like, to just give the go-ahead on any of this stuff. Like, they still have to, get Trump's kick in on even stuff he's agreed with yesterday, because he might not agree with it today. It's so gross. Let's grab another question if we could, Johnny.
Yeah, I've got one here from Tim Farrell. What do you know about the livestock cull in Russia and its impact? Reports are sketchy, but it appears massive.
Yeah, they have they have some sort of disease.
They've got crazy Ivan disease, mad cow disease.
It's not foot and mouth. It's not beef based. It's I think it's chickens actually. It might be a bird flu version, but I do know that they have been culling lots of their domestic food production.
They've done 90,000. They've done 90,000 cows in Siberia because of hoof and mouth. or
That's the hoof and mouth out there.
they're
Yeah.
not telling the truth about it. They're not saying that's what it is, but that's what people expect that it is.
But then there's also a call that's happening near like the western oblasts as well. They've got a food supply problem.
They've got an avian flu problem. They've also got a mutated form of rabies because everything is going so well in Russia right now. They've got their own they've got an pneumonia. So you can't tell if they got a runny nose or they're foaming at the mouth, but just and that's obviously rabies affects all kinds of animals. It's not it's the animals that kill the livestock sometimes. And Russia famously has a wolf problem. It has super packs of wolves in during World War II there was a period where the Russians and the Germans stopped warring for like a week to just fight off the wolves because more wolves were taking soldiers than the gunfighting was.
Oh my God.
Like 100 wolves in a super pack, like just insane numbers. These, and that's been an issue, in that region of the world for a long time, but especially in Russia. So if they get rabies, oh my God, there's your next horror film. Right. Jesus.
Yeah. What's the title variation of American Werewolf in London then?
Right. Yeah. Russian Werewolf in St. Petersburg. Isn't that just Scott Ritter? But anyways, let's grab another question, Johnny.
Got one from PB Lou. They saw a possible AI video saying that Japan had sold Ukraine state-of-the-art Inceptor drones. Wondering if there's any truth in it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, the Japanese gave them some real high-tech and cutting-edge kind of technology drones. I don't know how many they gave off the top of my head, but yeah, they're very sophisticated. So
brilliant.
Yeah, they I want to say it's not Terror, it's Terra drones in Japan partnered with, I think, a Ukrainian drone company so that they could basically trade the stuff without it being an arms sale, because that's an issue with Japan's leftover surrender issues.
I kind of like Terror drones a little bit better. Though.
I kind of do too. Yeah. So they formed a partnership with a Ukrainian company to trade technology too. So they are giving Ukraine cool stuff and vice versa. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Yeah.
Let's grab another one, Johnny.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Got one from, let's see, from you two, from Nevitz. Does Philip know how many children Melania actually saved from Ukraine, or is it purely optics on her part?
Well, no, not just optics. She did arrange for some returns to happen. Not large numbers. Again, not optics, but kind of symbolic. It wasn't significant in terms of wasn't thousands, and Russia has taken thousands of kids. So, she kind of, look, God bless those families that got their children back.
Right.
That's great.
Right. It doesn't matter.
No
and also, she could be the face of something they intended to do anyways on an international stage to try and throw Trump a bone, make her look good. Like it's debatable about how many she actually had any part in, but again, if it happens, it happens. Who cares? Yeah.
All right.
By the way, just to before you grab that one, Johnny, Iran has officially threatened to attack any U.S. military ship that enters the Strait of Hormuz within 30 minutes. So just that during the negotiations, so they're going that well. But okay, let's grab another question. We got a couple of minutes before this break.
All right, so I've got, this is another one from YouTube. I don't have the name though. They commented that that's an extraordinary amount of drones, talking about what Phil reported before.
4 million?
Yeah, where do they get all the parts and pieces of circuits and stuff?
Develop it themselves.
Well, yeah, they make
3D
them.
printed. Yeah.
The circuit board in a drone is not the highest level circuit board printing. And if you have a circuit board printer, you can make them. You can fabricate them. That you can fabricate your own specifically shaped circuit boards. You plan them out. There's a company even in the United States where if you create an electronic device by pitching a bunch of stuff together, you can have them print the board exactly as you need it and no other stuff. And they'll send it to you, and it costs you, if you're making, you can either prototype devices that way or whatever, but they have these big machines that just cut and carve circuit boards. This would be a question for Rob Glenn, but ultimately those circuit board machines are for sale. And one of the ways they're going China free is you just buy one of these factories that's going under in China.
No.
You buy their circuit cutters and their circuit board cutters, and you just ship them in and you make them yourself. And then you make more of them with the stuff you have.
Yeah. And Ukraine has always had a really robust IT industry. So
that's true.
They have the capacity to do all of this. So I mean I have an interview on the channel with a guy who was he was making.
Thank you.
He just had a 3D printing company, and when the war began, he was like, "Well, I guess I'm printing drones now." So they have
thanks to
capacity.
Drywit Geek and a couple other people which I think is his other account. Yeah. So PCBWay is the company that in the United States, if you want to make your own, if you design a drone of your own and you need the circuit board to be exactly this size with a certain chip on it and a certain setup, they will print it for you and send it to you. And those machines, you can buy them. You can make those machines yourself. And because of the defense industry in Ukraine, I'm sure that they had an offshoot electronics industry in Ukraine where they could make their own stuff, some local electronics and the like.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make those in country, you can make just about anything these days. So, yep. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. By the way, hit that like, share the show, etc., etc., etc.
It's free.
Do it. Do it. Come on. Like me.
It's a bombing.
Do it. Get to the chopper. So you cook up the story and drop the 6 of us into the meat grinder.
Wow.
You've seen Bill Hader's take on that, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, he does a great bit because he was a PA on a lot of films, and he did a couple with
Predator.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And he apparently Schwarzenegger one time was like, "Where my hair makeup man?" And Bill Hader was like, I think they're over there. Go find them. Show me your leadership capabilities.
It's like Arnold sent me on a mission.
That's right. That's right. Show me your leadership.
Show me your leadership capabilities. Hader does a great Schwarzenegger. All of Schwarzenegger stories are so funny.
He's a very likable fellow. I like Hader.
Very funny.
He's one of the only impressionists who's not insane.
Well,
right. Yeah, because it's not his only thing.
Yeah, he's got a personality of his own.
Yeah.
But that's also a new thing. That's a,
I am happy,
to be an impressionist.
Happy. Let us
there we go.
be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
I have to say, I'm always a little sad when our happy ending of the show. And thank you guys for being with us today, and like and subscribe, etc., etc. Patreon.com/HalSparks, and of course, Super Chat's a great way to support the show. Bits on Twitch, and of course on Facebook. You can use stars to support the show. I always hate it when our happy ending is Schadenfreude. Where it's like we're happy at the expense of someone else. I'd rather it be the fact that there are major strides being made fighting cancer and MS and those kind of things, which are true. But I do think we have one at least this week that is free and clear, very exemplary of a positive thing, and that was, of course, Artemis 2's landing safely, just about 50 miles west of where I am right now in the ocean. My girl and I came down to Oceanside, California, to be near the landing because they were landing nearby. We did not hear the sonic boom. We were hoping to, but I think it was just location. But it was, to be completely frank, I teared up a couple of times during it. I got goosebumps. I was very happy and excited that they made it okay when it was like when they landed safe, when they broke through and the communication came back after 6 minutes of blackout while they were coming in, considering the problems they had with the heat shield on the first one. That they knew they'd done everything right. They shortened the amount of time that they were in the burn by about 7 minutes over last time, so they faced that intense heat for a shorter amount of time, but they still had 6 minutes of complete radio silence. And when they connected up right afterwards, it was like clockwork. It was exactly when they said. The chutes all came out in order and very well. The last chutes, because of their design, take a while to open, so that was nerve-wracking and nail-biting for about a couple of minutes. You're like, oh, they look like balloons. What's happening? Why are they not opening? And then they fully opened. And then when they're coming down, but you got the ocean in contrast, because it was I think it was a like a giant military plane filming it from above. The focal length made it look like they were about to splash down, going really fast, and they weren't. They were just traveling over the surface of the ocean
What if NASA
at a high
depended on
speed.
balloons? Like hot air
Yeah,
balloons,
right, yeah.
a bunch of helium balloons.
Right,
What
yeah.
if the helium? It's just like up. We saw up.
Yeah,
It's gotta work.
We're gonna show the astronauts preparing for reentry, and they're all going.
Yeah.
I'm getting dizzy. So, anyways, they landed. That was a big sigh of relief.
Mhm.
Then they opened the door and got them out. That was a big sigh of relief. And then they helicoptered them out of the raft to the ship, and that was a big sigh of relief. And then they had wheelchairs for them because they've been in 0G for a week or 10 days. And so they had wheelchairs for them, but they all walked. They all, they had their hands on.
Sometimes I would happily
people.
take a wheelchair after sitting for 2 hours.
You are in a wheelchair. You're just
am.
not in. Yeah. Almost everybody is these days. But a chair with wheels is not a wheelchair, I guess. But they walked on their own. It was well timed. The science is the science is the science. So the only thing that's really a variable is in some cases weather in picking them up, and wind in affecting their their reentry a little bit in terms of their parachutes. But as long as everything works, even they've got fail safe upon fail safe. So all of it went off very well. And it was just a wonderful bonding moment. And Summer and I watch every so often. We watch Everyday Astronaut when some of these launches come on. We bounce back and forth between the YouTube live streams. And they had he mentioned something that specifically, like, and I don't know if it was one of his supporters or somebody in the chat or whatever, but they specifically were saying, like, this is one of these things that can bring people together and remind everybody that humanity can work together on goals, and that we have aspirational goals that are better than killing each other. And that the Apollo mission happened right in the middle of civil unrest in the Vietnam War, and right after the assassination of an American president. And it offered a beacon of hope in this time. And so I want everybody to just remember that there are these things going on all the time. There are medical advances and scientific advances and personal victories and the Olympics and the Paralympics and those kind of things are happening all the time, in spite of the Donald Trumps and the Vladimir Putins and the Xi Jinpings seeking to ruin the world.
Yeah. No. I look. Putin's going to lose this war, and that's going to be a good thing. And we're going to get this in the rear view mirror for the world.
Yep.
And Ukraine is going to be prosperous. And I swear, when this is over, come to Ukraine, see these people, visit this country, go to the beautiful cities and natural kind of. There's so much beauty here, and so much.
Yep.
When we get Trump in our rear view mirror, we've got a lot of work to do to repair the damage that was done. But I am confident that we can get there.
I agree.
If we can get back to a place where we can be positive about the future, and I really do think that Ukraine is a linchpin of it. Of course, Trump is a linchpin of it, but we can get there. We can get there. I'm positive we can get there, and we can get back on track of applying our efforts to something far more positive, like Artemis, and like the advances we're making in Alzheimer's, in defending against Alzheimer's, or take your pick. There's so many things that can be positive, and they're being drowned out by the chaos. But I think the chaos the clock is ticking, and we're going to get to a place where the Putins, and as you say, Hal, the Putins and the Xis and the Trumps of the world, they're not the ones that are going to be in the driver's seat for very much longer. I really do think we can get back to a place where we're positive and we're moving forward in a positive manner.
Yeah,
this is a big one. Ukraine is a big one.
That's right. I completely agree, and I think it's a sign that the people, of Ukraine not giving up on their own self-determination and democracy within their own country is a beacon in this circumstance, in contrast to what Donald Trump is doing. And that's why I think a lot of maggots hate them, because and it's why Trump supports Orban and his, what was he calls it, I want to say illiterate democracy, but he calls it illiberal democracy. That it's democracy with an iron fist over top of it. The idea, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more about democracy.
The dictatorship of law.
Yeah, that's right.
What Putin calls it.
Yeah, and it looks like he's about to be kicked to the curb. Fingers crossed that he doesn't manipulate the elections, or Russians don't do it for him. But if they have a legitimate election in Hungary, it's not going to be good for them. It looks like he's going to lose, and on top of that, it also, we'll see. But even if he doesn't, it'll go purple for them in a way that you can't just claim that everybody supports you again, and you got to watch yourself. Otherwise, people are going to turn on you. And that's why I have to remind everybody, if you're a Democrat and you live in an area that's all red, your vote matters more. Because if everybody who feels that way would show up and vote, instead of just going, it's red anyways, my guy's never going to win, you'll drift the politics of that area purple, and that'll warn the Republican that is in there that they can't just be Trump's id, in a suit wandering around doing whatever he says. They can't just be a cult leader, because they have to recognize that their district is split much more evenly than they think, and that one day it might get overtaken. Yeah, red to purple, purple to blue. That's the role, and everybody needs to vote. Because every election matters, and we have a responsibility of to be constant gardeners of our government, so that we can just get back to voting every 2 years like we care, considering it very seriously as civilians and then getting back to our own lives instead of having to white knuckle our government every day. Like it's like Trump is teaching this like a series we're all binging. It's terrible.
Yeah. Where you can wake up, you can read the news. It'll still be rough, but it won't be every morning waking up to, oh my God,
5-alarm fire. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I do we have any questions left, Johnny?
We got them all.
Okay, great. So, is On the Edge back up? Are you guys close to up and running again?
We are. We got a guest scheduled to come in next Wednesday, so by next Sunday we'll have our first episode. It's been very, very difficult to get things running, and because of the
well, you are in a war zone after all. Yeah.
Well, and they really did do some damage to our electrical grid, and which is why you don't attack civilian, electrical systems. I mean, that's why it's a war crime. And I'm just a little, TV studio. I mean, think about babies in incubators and dialysis machines and things like that. So
which is more the goal.
Civilian, which is why when I hear the Trump administration making these overtures to we're going to destroy your civilian, it's a war crime for a reason, because the damage that it does, it ripples through society, and
that's right.
Your supermarket will all of the frozen goods will go to waste.
Will perish, right?
Then you'll have a food shortage. You'll have road accidents because there's no light in the middle of the night, and there's no street lights. So, people will crash into one another. It's not just the electrical grid. It's what happens to a society when you deprive the civilians who have nothing to do with the war, who just want to live their lives. They're having to deal with the secondary and tertiary effects of attacking a civilian infrastructure, which is why we shouldn't do it.
That's right. And that's why, by the way, Trump is threatening what he's threatening on Iran, and why it's wrong from our perspective. And it's why ultimately he tacoed, because we had military leaders in this country who were like, we're not going to stand by and do this or order our people to do this. We're not going to strike infrastructure just because you, the big deal maker dude, can't make a deal. Thank you so much for being on the show, Phil. Appreciate it. On the Edge will be back on a week from tomorrow. And then, of course, Johnny Million. It's Johnny Million on YouTube and Twitch. And then, of course, you can subscribe to my show, Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you, WCPT and everybody. And we will see you. Don't forget, I have a new single out called Blue Marble, my band 01, for the Artemis mission. Enjoy, and we will see you later.
Thanks, everyone.
I don't know if you've had a chance to hear the song, but I'm very proud of it, Phil. So,
it's very
all right. I'll take a look.
Blue Marble. Just look up 01. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And I'll let you go. And I gotta pack up and get out of this Airbnb before they charge us for an extra hour or whatever happens.
Safe travels.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right. See you later. Right. Peace out,
care,
everybody.
Bye.
See you later.
Tarmac, moon dust still in the folds of my hands. You look up, but your sky is crowded. Tiny screams drowning out the span. Every face glowing in the blue light. Every street buzzing sharp and loud. Float in the gravity of old fights. You laugh like it's just another cloud. Passing from up there, you're a blue scratched window, porcelain balanced on black. Every wall looked like dust and water, every border just a nervous crack. Now I'm back and the ground feels fragile. Cracked cups stacked in a kitchen sink. Your scream about lines on a map while your oceans crawl closer to the brink.